talked about NIMAC many, many times over the years. NIMAC is a terrific organization. We have members in our town as part of NIMAC. Richard Muscatello has been a longtime member of NIMAC and a past commander of the air base. This air base is tremendously important to all of us. This year we had an air show, and that air show went extremely well. And just a couple of days ago we got notice of the, I can't remember the name of it, Dick Schramm Memorial Community Relations Award, the Thunder Over Niagara Air Show put on by NIMAC and the air base became the best show in the country for this year. Now, Merrill Lane was the longtime chairman of NIMAC, helped to get it off the ground during the first BRAC. Unfortunately, Merrill passed a couple of years ago. And when he passed, John Cooper, who was assistant chair, was willing to take over the mantle. And John helped get this through this year with the air show, doing a lot of the work behind the scenes. Bill Wagner, our own Bill Wagner, who is chairman of our Economic Development Committee, is basically the one that did all the day-to-day work, all the groundwork, and made it such a great success, not only for us, but even for NIMAC. NIMAC actually made a fair buck out of this air show, so it was good for the goose, good for the gander. John, can you come forward? Some of you may remember that John has been here before when we do give some money to NIMAC each year as part of our economic development program. And John has been here talking about NIMAC. Time for him to get a little recognition. And I won't bother reading the whole proclamation, but John, on behalf of the town board and the residents of Wheatfield, I hereby offer our heartfelt thanks for your exemplary service to NIMAC, the men and women of the Niagara Air Reserve Station, and to Wheatfield and the surrounding community served by all, and all that you do for Western New York. John, thank you very much.
Appreciate that very much.
You deserve this and so much more.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And what a great job he does.
Thanks.
Thank you. One of us has to lose weight.
Okay, I will.
And we've had a group called the Town Center Focus Group that have been working on various programs. Larry, if you can tone that down just a little. Working on various programs for down here at the Town Hall for all 6 years that I've been here, and I think another year beyond that. One of those persons is Melissa Gurman. I think she's been on that ever since the beginning. She's been chair for the last several years. We are going to be going into negotiations with North Tonawanda Library as well as Sanborn Library again this year. And they are seeking a great deal of money. One of the things that we started talking about at the Town Center Group was possibly having our own library. And this is a decision that I think the residents of Wheatfield will have to make at some point in time. But one way or the other, we're going to be spending probably a fair amount more money. And we think at some point it's going to become actually less for us to have our own library. Melissa, are you prepared?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board, I appreciate you letting me come tonight and giving you just a quick overview as to what we've been doing about library services here in the town of Wheatfield.
Is your mic on? Should be a little green light.
Yes, it's on.
Okay.
I will be closer. How's that?
Fine.
Okay. As you know, the town of Wheatfield pays both North Tonawanda and Sanborn libraries for library services. And we have been developing a survey that we want to send out to our residents to see how they feel about spending money to another municipality or having our own library. So Mike Rinaldi has been extremely helpful in getting us ready to get that survey online, and we're also going to have paper copies available probably all over the town, both in the rec center, here in town hall, probably in the community center. We'll go visit the seniors, and we'll probably put it in the youth center as well, so that we get the most amount of people that want to participate in our survey. So we want to find out how the residents feel. Should we have our own library? Should we continue to pay another library for library services? And we'll go from there. So tonight I handed, you should have it in front of you, I did hand you a copy of an estimated budget to not only build a building, but to operate it yearly. And based on our estimates, which came from information from Niagara, from the Lewiston Library, from the Medina Library, we also visited Newfane, and I think that's all we did as a group, but we used those numbers, those financial numbers, to kind of figure out a good estimate for building our own building, should we get there. So the estimated cost to build a building would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.2 million. And that is a 6,300 square foot building. And then the yearly cost would be somewhere around $360,000. We are currently paying $175,000 to 2 libraries for this year. So that's why I think that this survey is so important for all the members of our town to participate in, so that we get a feel for what the townspeople want to do. And then I think would be a great opportunity, once we have those numbers, to maybe sit down here with the town board specifically and have a discussion. Should we move forward? Should we continue to pay other municipalities, and go from there? So I also gave you a quick copy of what our survey looks like. It is, one of our members did a really fantastic job, and she's got it ready to be online, and it looks very professional, and it looks really good. So it's just quick questions as to, do you visit a library? Are you interested in having our own library? Those types of questions. And at the bottom of the page, which got cut off when I printed it today, we're asking for a street address, so that we try to keep it Wheatfield residents only the best that we can. We know that once something is online, there's always that possibility that we could get other folks to participate in the survey. So we're going to, just try to keep it the best that we can and go from there. So if there are any questions from the town board, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody? We have a great group of people working on this. Kurt Doctor went to school for library services. He happens to not be working in that field, but that's what he went to college for, and he's heading up a lot to do with this library service. And we also have 2 librarians on the board, 2 residents who are also librarians, so we have a great group.
Right.
They know what they're talking about. They know where to go looking. They have great ideas. We have to tone it down. We have to try and keep it within our means, and we've been working on that.
Right. And another
Actually,
resident that is here tonight, she has worked
right.
in a library.
Doris is one of them. She's
So,
been with this group for years and years.
Yeah, she's been helping out a lot.
As is your father, Rich.
That's
Rich
right.
Bennett.
He's very important to this group.
How are you going to circulate this? Is this going to be online only, or is it going to be available in the town hall?
We're going to do both. We're going to put it online and then have it in as many places as possible, really. Our town clerk, when I talked with Kathy, she said, hey, let's have some copies here. I said, sure, no problem. Dad has volunteered to go over in one of the busiest days at the senior center and maybe distribute at that point. And we're happy to have it in the youth center and maybe even over at the rec department. The link to the website is going to be in the recreation booklet, and they're hoping to have that out to the residents around January 4th. So we're hoping to make it available by then. Same thing, yeah, same day.
And then it's going to be open probably for a month and a half or 2?
Yeah, I think we have on the survey to have it complete by March 1st.
Yeah.
So it'll give it about 7 or 8 weeks.
We know we're not going to get an answer from every resident of Wheatfield.
Right.
But we will get a better feel of where the people of Wheatfield stand by asking these questions.
Right.
And we need to do that before we go into negotiations.
Correct.
You may want to have some ready for the town clerk. It's tax season, so she'll be collecting taxes next month.
She can hand them out, yeah.
And so there'll be a fair number of
Sure.
foot traffic coming into town hall, so another way of handling
Fair
them
enough.
out.
We'll have the copies ready, no problem. We're paying $175.
Yeah, that's actually 2016, we'll be paying $175. Our budget is for $177, because Sanborn has actually asked for more, but that's not been approved by the board yet.
Around, yes. There are always grants and those types of things that we will make sure that the town participates in attempting to get.
And Bob, you've had some discussions, prior negotiations where they're looking for us to, they being North Tonawanda, are
Yep.
looking for us to probably supply about a 30%.
Well, we don't know what they're looking for, that's what negotiations are for, but Melissa's been to a couple of their meetings, and Justin Higner has been to several of their meetings as our representatives, and they were told to be ready to open the checkbook. I think that's the word you used, if I remember right.
Yes, pretty much. Without actually giving me a number, they
Right,
said, yeah,
okay.
be prepared for more.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Melissa, thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you.
Melissa's a member of our planning board team. She's been secretary of the planning board for years, as well as for the task force.
Yep.
Thank you for all that you do.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to public input. Brian, do we have anybody signed up? Jennifer Wozniak?
Hello, my
Hi,
name is Jennifer Wozniak. I am a resident. I live in Wheatfield Lakes, and I'm here to just quickly talk about the planned dehydration facility in my backyard. I just have a couple of points, 4 very quick, short points, some things that I'm hoping the board will consider. FERC was legally required to notify residents when the project moved. However, we don't believe that this actually occurred. I know that my neighbors were not notified. So I'm hoping that we follow Pendleton's lead and get a lawyer to look into this to see if FERC was legally responsible for notifying us, and if they weren't, maybe that's some way that we can catch them and to prevent this facility from going in, or at least, you know, maybe slow it down. The second point is, with this increase in residential developments, the board has a responsibility to ensure the health and safety of the residents that moved in. So I feel like Liberty Drive at some point is going to need to be looked at in terms of rezoning. Our town development in the future going forward needs to match that concern for our health and welfare of our residents. Third, Mr. Supervisor, I know in an email to me, as well as to my neighbor Rebecca Doctor and the North Tonawanda Sun, you had mentioned that you have not made up your mind. Fair, fine. However, you certainly must have made up your mind at some point when you moved that facility and you worked with National Fuel to move it from your backyard to mine. You don't get that luxury to decide based on your feelings and your decisions about our future. You work for us. We elected you, so if we're concerned about it, you should be concerned about it. You said that you want proof, you want data, you want facts, you want figures, and that National Fuel has said it's perfectly safe. That sounds like Big Tobacco telling us that cigarette smoke is perfectly safe, and then we're finding out that it causes cancer. So that's not okay. There are no safe levels of benzene, according to the EPA and the World Health Organization. National Fuel, on its application, has admitted that it is going to be emitting 1.3 billion tons, on average, of benzene into the air in my backyard per year. I am not willing to subject my daughter, my 15-month-old daughter, to a life of respiratory issues, possible leukemia, because of 1%. 1% when we're talking about childhood cancer is not acceptable. No percentage of benzene in the air is acceptable. when we're talking about childhood cancer. This also sounds eerily similar to what Quasar had said to us, that it's safe, it's fine, and now we know we are involved in a lawsuit with them. So when are we going to smarten up and say that we're not going to listen to these big businesses? And when are we going to do some outside research about the effects? And there are well-documented effects of fracking in Chapin, Pennsylvania, and what's going on currently in California. So National Fuel says that they're experts and that we should listen to them, but I'm telling them that, and my response to them is that fracking has not been around long enough. There are known carcinogenic agents in natural gas when they're fracking, and there are unknown long-term health concerns that have not been studied. I am not willing to be a test subject for National Fuel. The status quo is not working. Residents need to be informed in a different manner. The web page is fine, great, although most residents don't have access to the internet. The web page is not user-friendly. I feel that there's other ways that we can get information to residents. I feel like residents should have a say. That survey idea is probably a great idea. Survey the residents. But I'm also demanding actually, that our residents, every resident in Wheatfield receives information on this facility before January 13th so that they have time to RSVP and to reserve a spot so that they can get their concerns known. Because I have a funny feeling that most of the residents in Wheatfield don't even know about this yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
My name is Mike Alianoa. I live in 2292 Lancelot, about 2,500 feet from where this plant is going to be located. Jennifer covered a lot of the things that I was going to bring up. Just a couple of things that I think the town board can help us with National Fuel when they have conversation and stuff. If this is set in stone that this has to go here, there is alternatives to different types of dehydration stations with zero emissions. I gave Councilman Helwig some information on the desiccant dehydrator. This has zero emissions. It's a lot safer. We still have to deal with the possibility of a leak or, it being an unmanned station that somebody could break in there and cause damage like they're doing to the electrical building or electrical places around. But there are different alternatives. The town board should help us on that in getting that to FERC so that they can look at those things. I was going to ask about the neutrality of the town board. We got to work together. This is a team effort. We got to make this everybody. One thing Pendleton found out, they were a little lax on getting out the word to their public, and they took the stance where they actually got a mailer out and mailed it to every single person that lives in Pendleton. Every household got a letter stating what was going on with the compressor station. We should consider the same thing.
Thank you.
Well, here I am again. Sam Cerrito, live on Stenzel Avenue, own a property on Plaza Drive. I had a very interesting experience within the past 2 weeks with the administration's appointees. I came to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on a Monday last week, I believe it was last week, and my first question that I asked them is I said, I believe this meeting is illegal because nobody in the area there has been notified that this meeting is taking place and this project is going forward the way it's going. I was very rudely told that don't you tell me we're illegal. I apologized so this meeting would keep on going. And then I was told that we don't have to notify you or anybody else what we do when we're going to do something like what we're doing here. All we have to do is put a little sign like this on the property that we're thinking about doing something to. Well, I didn't get notified that they were gonna send that meeting out. I had been to the town hall earlier, and I found out there was approximately how many sheets of people that were supposed to be notified. But they were gonna notify only about 20 or 25 people on the west side of Williams Road towards 103rd Street, and not the people on Plaza Drive or Tawny or any place around there, within 500 feet of the project. So they said to me, well, I personally sent you out a notice. As of today, I still haven't received a notice that that meeting was going to take place. I mean, you guys appoint these people on these committees to represent the town in decision-making. I recall 2 weeks ago when you told me, Mr. Cleef, that we don't have nothing to do with that. Correct? That reminds me of something that happened many years ago when President Truman had a sign on his desk that said, "The buck stops here." I believe the buck is being passed here onto somebody else so that you guys can't have any say in it. I don't know why it's this way. Now, there was other things that happened at that meeting also. I questioned the height of it. 110 feet high is what they want. Does anybody in this town or any place know how high 110 feet high is? Thank you for correcting me, sir. Nobody. The height of 2 telephone poles is approximately 90 feet tall. 45 feet high is the maximum they can go from the ground to the top of the telephone pole. That's 2+ telephone poles high. In front of my house, 500 feet from my front door.
Okay, Sam, I'm gonna have to ask you to close it up.
Close it up?
Yeah, we're well past our 3 minutes.
Well, I remember what you told me last week. You don't have nothing to say about it. So I guess that's what's happening. You got nothing to say about it.
Well, it's not that we have nothing to say. That's probably not a fair statement. But just as the court makes decisions without input from the board, our zoning board of appeals makes decisions about zoning variances. We set the rules. We put the rules in place, so we are involved in the process. When somebody wants to build something which goes beyond our rules, it goes to the planning board first. The planning board takes a look at it. If they cannot approve it because it doesn't meet the rules, in this case a height variance, it has to go to somebody, and that is the zoning board. If you're not happy with the decision of the zoning board, you do have a level of appeal, but it's not here. Your level of appeal then goes to, is it Supreme Court?
Supreme Court.
Yeah, I understand how
So the
Supreme
next-
Court
so
works.
we can't
I
tell
already
them what to
paid
do.
$5,000 one time in this town for something that I objected to, and I'm not going through that again. I just have to bear with whatever happens here. I'm sorry, Mr. Cleve, but I don't think this town is acting in the best interest of our people. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. My investment's going down the tube, and all those people on Plaza Drive, their investments are gonna go down the tube because of this monstrosity of 110 feet high, 440 feet long, and 330 feet wide. And there's a 250-foot berm between that property and the road, which they think they're gonna ask for parking over there, more parking. What's happening to the town? I sit here with, like this, I'm sorry, I apologize if I was over.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Ryan?
Excuse me. Good evening. I just wondered if you were aware that quasar is actively spreading. They've been at it for a couple days that we've been notified. And I'd like to formally request if you would do a FOIL requesting the results of what they're saying, if this is Class A or Class B. Our assumption is that it's Class A because there weren't any permits or flags on the, we didn't see any markings on the fields, so we're assuming that it's Class A, just because we didn't see any specific, Class B, what
Do
we
you
would
know
say
where they're
marking.
spreading?
Yes, I would have to look it back up, but it's out in Royalton, Lincoln and Hollenbeck roads. is one site that we knew of, and then I'd have to look. A couple of people texted me more messages, but I don't know those off the top of my head. So we'd like you to request from the DEC whatever documentation was submitted on that. Then the second question I wanted to ask is if there's been any correspondence or any from Judge Caruso or Ag and Markets.
No.
No, nothing on that. And then I wanted to ask if we have do we have a Board of Ethics in the town?
There once was a Board of Ethics probably 10, 12 years ago, and it's has not been exercised in all that time. At this point, I don't even know who would be on that board, so I think the answer to your question is no.
No, okay. And then the second thing, I wanted to ask a question about zoning. If zoning in a particular area changes, who around that would have to be notified? So if, you know, say I wanted to open up whatever, some kind of crazy business that was really loud and obnoxious, would my neighbors have to know about it if I applied to have it rezoned as such and such, or if I was on, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, I thought that there was some sort of notification process within a certain...
There is a notification process. I don't know if, Mike, you could tell the...
500 feet, Sam threw that out there as far as notification. You know, with zoning itself, zoning changes have to be approved by the board. So there's steps involved there too. So my application starts with zoning board. If it's a change of use for business, you're talking about that specific.
I'm not, I'm just wondering what the...
Changing from a commercial to an industrial, that's a town board action. It's in the paper, it goes up to residents within that frame for 500 buildings.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a long procedure. If you're going to change the actual zoning between publishing in the newspaper, posting around the town, posting and copies of the proposed zoning change, copies in the clerk's office, posting, publishing, as Mike said, mailings to 500 feet around. If you are close to any borders with any other municipalities, the municipalities have to be sent notices to their clerks so they can...
But generally, it's 500 feet. So, like, for example, if anything was happening on Liberty Drive for whatever, like, say, Quasar, to be switched to something else, the people in Lakeside are too many feet away, right? They're 2,500 feet away?
Right.
Okay.
But for mailing, but it still has to be in the paper a certain number of times, published, post.
Public hearing.
A public hearing would be, and then after, whenever there's any zoning change, after any zoning change takes place, it's required a publishing of a notice of enactment as well, so people are aware it was changed so they can challenge that change.
So, could somebody get a special use permit to try and circumvent, like, the zoning rules? Do you know what I mean? Say, okay, like, say Quasar wanted to switch over to something else that emitted whatever. Is there some way that they could say, oh, we just want to do this here and we don't have to rezone it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, there are things, every particular zoning area or zoning classification does allow in the code of the town other types of activities that can take place but require a special use permit. So if they want to exceed what is naturally allowed in that zoning classification, they can get a special use permit if the planning board approves it. That generally goes, special use permits generally go to the planning board. There are a few occasions where they might come to the town board, but for the most part to the planning board. They review those applications for special use permits. Some special use permits can be given for a longer term. I think the majority of them are annual and have to be reapplied on an annual basis.
So a special use permit goes before the planning board, so we could review planning board minutes to see who's requesting special use permits.
It would be reflected in their minutes,
Not zoning.
special use permits.
Okay. All right. And will you FOIL?
Yes, I know, we
I got
did
it.
do some foiling
Yep.
before, then you foiled
But-
that information. I think we sent it out to you.
Yep, I got it.
But yes, I have your notes here, and we can send out another foil. As we know from the last run around, it takes over a
It
month.
takes the full time that they're
But-
allowed, yeah.
Right, but we can do that, sure.
All right, because I want to see what they spread. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm coming to speak on the dehydrator today. I received an email back from National Fuel regarding the meeting on the 13th, and I had asked for more time so that residents could become prepared, and they said, and I quote, "Please be aware that elected officials in Wheatfield have been aware of the proposed facility since August 2014 and worked with National Fuel to relocate the proposed facility from the preferred site at Indicon Industrial Park to Liberty Drive." So what I'm reading, if I'm reading this correctly in the email, is that you helped them to move it to Liberty Drive. Is that correct?
Help probably wouldn't be the word. We work with them. Yeah, it's not the town that's approving the location. When they first put this dehydrator at the end of Indicon, it was literally in the flight path of all of the planes that come in and out of Niagara Falls Airport. 24-inch diameter, high-pressure natural gas line 1,000 feet off the end of the runway. I think Richard was in the original meeting with me. Richard's a member of NIMAC. I'm a member of NIMAC. When we heard about this, we brought it to the attention of NIMAC at the next meeting. I don't even think it was very many days afterwards. NIMAC has a strategic committee that got pretty concerned about it, and NIMAC's strategic committee had a few people make a few phone calls. And the next thing you know, they're back in my office asking where else can it go. If it's going to stay in Wheatfield, the only other place would have been Liberty Drive. The only other place that made any sense is Liberty Drive because of where the pipeline is itself, the pipeline now. It's the only other M1 zone that's available. Piping all the way down would have been a problem. Piping out into the middle of nowhere between, say, Nash Road and putting a plant out in the middle there wouldn't have made any sense. We didn't pick the spot. They picked the spot, but it was based upon our zoning map of what is available in an M1 zone. They probably knew that if they tried to put it out into an agricultural zone, they probably wouldn't have gotten it.
Why wouldn't they have gotten it in an agriculture zone? Because of the pipes?
It probably would not have been able to go through. That's something we could fight. Being in an M1 zone, it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's
light industrial. I understand how zoning
use.
works.
Yeah, it would be considered an acceptable use for an M1 zone. Where they got the land from is strictly up to them. We haven't seen a site plan, so we don't know exactly where it's going. I just know.
I drive by it all the time. You can see they already have equipment in there.
Pardon?
I drive by where they have it staked out. They have equipment in there. So this just doesn't make a lot of sense to me in an agriculture area, and not that I'm proposing it goes there, but there's no people near there. We're 700, and that was an approximation, households in a 1-mile radius of this, and that's where our town says they can go. It makes more sense. They're $1 billion to pipe extra to go to an area that's not inhabited. Seems to me to make sense as far as keeping the health and safety in mind, not the convenience for National Fuel.
We don't get to
pick and choose. It's like pocket change.
You don't seem to appreciate that we don't have the option of picking and choosing. FERC is the one that they apply to, not to the town.
You work for us, though. You're supposed to protect our health and safety. I understand zoning. From a zoning situation, sure. But from a health and safety, especially after we just got through Quasar with health and safety that's right down the street, it just seems to me that the town didn't act on behalf of the residents and then didn't notify anybody. I live in that neighborhood, not one person. And I know I've been to board meetings since then, and I didn't hear anything about the location on Liberty Drive because I would have definitely gotten involved a lot sooner. I'm going to propose a moratoria because we know that fracking, obviously New York State has banned fracking, so I don't understand why the byproducts of fracking would be acceptable if fracking itself is not. That would include on roads, because there are certain municipalities that use that fracking waste on roads, which gets into the waterway, and that would include air.
Yeah, that's right. The state uses it.
I'm not saying it's right. I don't think we should use it. As far as I'm concerned, we should be a model for the state. We have Love Canal, which we're still dealing with the remnants with, and we're going to just sit back and say, okay, all this stuff is okay, just come do it here. I think we should have pushback. I don't understand why we don't. If you're supposed to be working for the residents and not the businesses, you should be protecting the residents. I'm really, I thought in fighting Quasar, which I'm still very involved in, that I wouldn't have to go through this and all the stress that it brings to myself and my family, and I'm sickened by the fact that I'm in this situation again.
Thank you. Brian? Evening,
Good
Sharon.
evening. Can you tell me what is the org chart for the town? Who reports to who? Do all the separate departments, like the planning board and the rec department, the water department, who do they report to?
Well, each department is different. The town court doesn't report to me nor to the town board. They're elected by you, by people. And they run, we set their budget for them, we give them the facilities to proceed, but we don't tell them what to do or how to do it. Kathy, as a town clerk, is an elected official. We don't tell her what to do and how to do it. We do set her budget for her. Paul is an elected official. It's a little different. When it comes to building department works directly for the board. He's a department head who works for the board. So we would have some more direction there. As we would with Rich in water sewer, he works and Mike also, who is a department head for there. They would work at the behest of the board. And I certainly get involved with all of these guys as to how they do their business. When it comes to something like the Zoning Board of Appeals or the Planning Board, Planning Board's job is to make sure that any new project coming to town meets the rules that are developed by the town board. That's their job. They don't appreciate and shouldn't have to expect us to go down there and tell them what to do. Their job is to make sure it does or doesn't meet the rules and to flavor it a little bit to improve the town. Zoning Board of Appeals' sole job is to take a look at any given project that doesn't meet the rules and determine whether it's in the interest of the town to override the rules on a given matter or not. That's their sole job. And the level of appeal on a zoning board issue isn't to the town board. It's actually, I think, to Supreme Court. I think Matt agrees that it's to Supreme Court. So if Sam isn't happy with a decision the ZBA makes, or if he challenges their procedure, it would be done in Supreme Court, not here at the board level. Our job is to select the members of those boards. I think they're all 5-year terms, if I remember right, and they rotate so that there's one person that changes every 5 years. Well, doesn't necessarily change. One person who's up for reappointment every 5 years.
But can the planning board come to you and you can make the final decision?
Planning board will get involved with us as they did with Quasar. The planning board asked me to hold a public hearing in the very early stages of Quasar because it was such a new product and a new idea. We held that public hearing here. We had the vice president of Quasar here from Ohio, as well as the person who was designing the site, so that anybody could ask whatever questions they wanted. Any board member could ask whatever questions they wanted. I believe that Tim Zuber was here at the time from Wendell, before the planning board made their approval of the site plan. And again, their job is to approve the site plan. They did ask for assistance from the board. Basically, I just handled the meeting is when it came down to.
So Quasar's, the responsibility of Quasar making the mistake of letting that come into our town is the planning board's error, not your error as a town board to stop it?
We didn't vote on it. It is a case of it is a conforming use to the laws of the town. So their decision is it a conforming use or not? And they determined in the end that it was a conforming use.
So this dehydrator could be the same thing, you're saying?
Dehydrator we have a lot less say in.
And
Quasar planning board could have challenged certain things. At that time, if you were here at that original meeting, you'd understand that why it wasn't an issue. At that point in time, it just wasn't an issue. It could have been challenged if somebody had challenged it. Could have gone to positive declaration. There could have been other things that could have occurred, but in the seeker process, you go to your experts. Who are your experts? DEC. They're our experts when it comes to products such as that. It was when they came back to the planning board with an idea to put a 10 million gallon hole in the ground. That's when literally the fecal matter hit the fan. That's when it all came to be. That's when everybody came out and we listened and we took about as serious action as we could possibly have taken.
Well, it was my understanding that if the planning board could come to you and you could say no. So I wanted to clarify that.
They could come and ask our opinion. In this case, I don't believe they did ask our opinion because their concern is whether or not it's a conforming use in the location that it's in and to make sure it follows all state, federal, county codes and town codes.
Okay.
That's
Thank
theirs.
you.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to, give these to you. These
Sure.
are off of, National Fuel's original thing. It does have a site plan. These are copies for you. Shows you right where it's gonna be. It shows you,
Those are the same copies you gave me last Wednesday.
And my street, Skylar Lane, is not even a street at that point. The Google map that he's showing you shows you the current picture of our neighborhood. However, map 24, National Fuel application, shows that my street is not even in the
Right.
So it leads me to believe that it's more populated than they even know.
Good point. Yeah, they were using 2010 census data, I believe.
Even though their application said that they went out and did actual site, you know, they actually went out and looked at what was going on.
Nothing else, Brian? Is there anybody else who wants to speak on any subject before the town? If not, then we'll move on. For the record, all members are present. We do have a set of minutes. The minutes are from the December 7th meeting. I need a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Moved by Gil. Do we have a second? Second by Art. Anything on the question? Anything that needs to be changed? If not, then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. Our bill pay this meeting is $177,154.49. Pardon me. That's for voucher numbers 2015-2393 through 2572. Gentlemen, I need a motion to be able to pay these bills.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Randy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Larry. Any bills anybody wishes to hold or discuss? All in favor of paying signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. Highway. Paul, what's going on in Highway?
Enjoying the weather.
Yeah, for sure.
We haven't done any snow fence yet. I had a couple people ask me, but as it is right now, I don't know if I'm going to. I don't see the fence cleaned up for a month. Last year, we had snow, we got used. Spending the time, the effort, the money to put all that snow fence up, and we're only gonna get up 5 weeks of winter, probably won't be worth it. I'm gonna wait and see how it goes, and see if it's gonna turn out sooner or not. Hopefully it doesn't. As of right now, it's July, for January 4th, it's still supposed to not have freezing temperatures. Just a reminder to everybody, I know it ain't snowing now, but it will be. We need to keep the cars off the road at night. Our guys can follow the roads, hitting them. Hard to get around with these circles and stuff when people park on. I do have one thing about the board's attention about purchasing a new truck. I don't know if that's now or if you want to do that later.
You did explain it to us by email and gave us the thing tonight. I don't know if the board is ready to approve it at this point. If we don't approve it at this point, that means it's going to go off into next year because we would have to encumber it tonight.
The reason why I didn't get it to you tonight, I actually didn't get it before the 6th.
Yeah.
They're selling a lot of trucks. They aren't in a hurry to sell when that need is discounted price.
Well, it's only $30,000, but it is $30,000, and I don't know, if there is a member of the board that wishes to approve that motion or ask any questions, go ahead. Otherwise, it's gonna be put off until next year.
I think we'd be better advised to put it off till next year at this point.
Okay. I don't hear a motion, Paul, so it's probably gonna get put off for the moment.
Are you still doing leaves, Paul?
No, okay. Went around town last week. Unless you see a pile, I'm not gonna keep driving the truck around town for one pile there, one pile there. I mean, people have plenty of time to get their leaves.
I know they have 39, right by 3957, there's a huge pile. Kent Richardson, I don't know where he was all fall, but there's a huge pile there if you are still in operation.
So,
Yeah, right.
so if we do have somebody that has leaves and wants them picked up, you will pick them up? Based on a phone call?
Well, yeah, once those start snowing out, but I mean, it is almost January, I mean, we've been out at least 6, 7 times.
I know you have, I'm just asking the question.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Rich, anything going on in water or sewer?
I have nothing like Paul, we're enjoying the weather so far. Keep our fingers crossed it doesn't freeze and stay frozen like last year.
Yeah. You know, actually, we had a lot of repairs last year because of the deep freeze. Of course, if you get the deep freeze without snow, it'll get even worse. Anything for Rich? Recreation, Mike Rinaldi.
Nothing to report, but I just wanted to throw this out there. We have a newsletter that we have for programs and just information within the department. We have like 800 people on the newsletter. Some of the councilmen are on it. Whenever we have a program that's going to get rolled out, we spit out an email to you. You can subscribe to it on our website. It's on the recreation page, the youth center page. We started with like 500, so we're up to over like 825 people. So hit up our website and throw your email in there. I think that's all the information you really need. Also, I just like kind of a year in review. We had 1,082 people register for like every program we have. It's up 200 from like when I took over, so we're trending in the right direction. We want to keep it going into 2016 and kind of increase that number. And the last thing, I don't want to give you too much information because I don't have a lot outside of the day and the time, but we are going to host a Winterfest right here on this complex. January 30th, the day. It's going to be between 1 and 4. And that's all I got for you. It is going to be for adults and kids. It's going to be on the complex, Rainiers Community Center, the youth center. My guys got the rink going outside, but like Paul said, it's not going to snow. So I don't know if we'll use it, but if it is cold enough, that'd be cool, at least for that day. But I think it'll be something cool, something fun. Hopefully in like 10 years we can look back and, be glad that we started something fresh and new for the community. And that's what it's all about. So that's all I got tonight.
Mike, I got a question. We had talked a bit ago about the stairs on the front of the town hall. Is that something that you could start pursuing some bids or get some ideas about, start replacing some of that come spring?
With the concrete?
Yeah.
I think that's something our building inspector was working on.
Instead of just skinning it, talking about actually taking some of that whole front style off, reconfiguring it, because the bricks come loose, and it's all poured in, it's all full foundation.
Mike, just congratulations and thanks to your entire crew. The Christmas lighting ceremony and Christmas party was once again just phenomenal. It gets bigger and better every year. They take the ideas that have worked in the past and then they add some new ideas every single time, and it's just a fabulous event for the kids.
Thank you.
I think parents probably enjoy it a whole lot too.
That was a good time.
It was a good time.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Mike, you said you have like 800 families that get emails or?
Yes.
Can they also put something on their website about the library that might hit up more people?
Well, that's where it's going to end up. Okay. That's where we intend to put that.
It's going to be in the recreation booklet. I want that to go out. That's probably something I should have told you too. I want that to go out the week of the 4th, like after the holidays when like things are kind of cooling down and like you're getting back to your normal life after the holidays and stuff. So sometime in that week it should go out, and there's going to be a blurb in there about the library. I already created the page on the website. It's on the back end of the website, so it's not live yet. And whenever you want me to have it go live, I can do that. And it's going to be a page when you go to Resident tab on the top, and then go to and put your cursor on library. It'll be right underneath where it says either Sanborn or North Tonawanda Library. It'll just say Town of Wheatfield Library Survey, and then it's self-explanatory. It's just click and drag and a bunch of icons to click. No problem.
Yeah, I think...
Last question, Mike, how's the, you have a December camp when the school's out?
Yeah, that'll be next week.
How's enrollment?
We usually get around 20, 25. We don't want to get too many more than that because of staffing and ratios.
Okay. Good.
Thanks.
One of the things that I think Mike was talking about is that you, by going on to the recreation website, you can sign up for notifications that when they have an event coming, you'll get notified. For example, if they're having Zumba for 15-year-old girls, I get a notification. I don't know why that happens, but usually when I get that, I send a note to Tracy. That's right. I get notified for everything that happens. Building, Mike Clark.
Building department, but building, you know, that we've been looking at with Mike's help too at the community center, securing bids for the exhaust fan. So that's still try to remove some of the heat up in the community center, help our freezing pond situation along the hopefully we'll get our third bid in here before the end of the year, which is submitted to you guys for approval. The building department. One thing that's coming up next year, not to mention it now, we've got about 6 months to implement it with all the commercial businesses for our annual fire inspections. The CO alarm or detectors is going to go in full force. So, like in your residence, you got to have a CO detector. Now the commercial buildings will now require them too. We've been going through miscellaneous training over the last couple months. It's going to go full implementation by June of next year. So Ryan's already been out there passing out some information, getting to the guys that, specifically the assemblies right now, the bigger places to be sure there. Because that's the most, probably the ones that have the biggest exposure and the most money to convert. So we're working with that. So over the next 6 months, you'll see all these. You might hear some rumblings, including what we have to do here at the town. We've been talking to our alarm people here too. We're going to do surveys with recreation, highway, water, sewer department, all of our buildings have community center and everything. So that's coming up next year.
Okay. Has the building now, the community center, been completely done except for the air movement?
I believe we're as far as we can go without the air, exactly. All the exterior stuff's been done, material is sprayed.
Is it heat traced?
Yep.
Good.
Anything else for Mike? Then we move on to Bridget. Nothing exciting going on? Arlene's not here, so that moves us to Tim Zuber at Wendell. Tim or Tim?
Thank you. The only thing on our agenda this evening is our planning board summary, and due to the dates that the meetings fell on, you get to hear about 3 meetings this evening, so I'll try to go fast. The first meeting was on November 18th, and the first agenda item was a public information meeting and site plan review for Aldi's of Wheatfield. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing complex at Adventure Speedway and construct a 17,825 square foot Aldi store and a 4,086 square foot retail building. The project will provide a mix of full-time and part-time jobs for 12 to 15 people. Public information meeting was held, and a number of concerns were discussed, including keeping the existing berm for screening and concerns about the traffic. The applicant was advised of several items to review prior to their next submittal, including providing justification for reduced parking, site grading near the access to the Canterbury Woods and near the town's sanitary pump station, and elimination of the proposed development on the site, the future development part of the site. No action was taken. The second item was a site plan for Driftwood Suites. The applicant, we've talked about this one before, the applicant proposes to expand their existing development with 4 new additional 3-bedroom units. A negative declaration under seeker was issued, and the planning board subsequently approved the site plan with several noted conditions, including review of access and parking agreements by the town attorney and deadlines for landscaping installation. The approval was also contingent upon engineering review. The last item of that meeting was a site plan for what's called Elderwood of Wheatfield. The applicant proposes to construct 4 new building additions totaling 41,275 square feet at the existing facility located at 2600 Niagara Falls Boulevard. The proposed additions are to be 1-story and will provide secure courtyard areas for use by the residents. The additions will provide 51 new beds to the existing facility. The applicant was advised of several items to address in their next submittal, including the development's impacts to wetlands and floodplains, and coordination with the Niagara County Health Department on the proposed sanitary sewer connection. A public information meeting was scheduled for December 16th at 7:05 p.m. No other action was taken. The next meeting was on December 2nd, and there was only one item on that agenda, and that was a site plan for Bridges Chiropractic. And this is another one we've talked about a couple of times. It's converting the house at 2783 Niagara Falls Boulevard into a business that provides specialized chiropractic and alternative health care treatment options. The bridge across Sawyer Creek will be posted with the weight limit specified by the applicant structural engineer, and guide rails will be installed. The project was determined to be a Type 2 action under seeker, therefore no further environmental review was required. The planning board approved the site plan with noted conditions and contingent upon engineering review and approval. The last meeting in December was on the 16th. The first item on that agenda was a public information meeting and site plan review, again for the Elderwood project, Elderwood of Wheatfield. That information meeting was held and various concerns were discussed, including screening and landscaping along the berm that's along the south side of the site and site lighting along that same location. The applicant was advised of several items to address in their next submittal. No other action was taken. Next item was a site plan for Jacob's Ladder. The applicant proposes to relocate their current business from the Wurlitzer building to the existing structure at 6292 Walmore Road. That's the Motorrad building. The business will utilize approximately 20,000 square feet of the existing 35,000 square foot building for manufacturing their exercise equipment. The project will renovate the office, install a sprinkler system, and upgrade the electrical service. The applicant was also advised of several items to include in their formal site plan submittal. No other action was required or taken. The next item was another sketch plan for a pole barn for equipment storage. The applicant proposes to construct a 2,400 square foot pole barn on the north side of his property located at 3655 Lockport Road. That's behind the John and Lonnie's Pizza. The pole barn would be for the storage of the applicant's paving equipment. The applicant was advised of items to address in their formal site plan approval as well. No action was required or taken. And the last item on the agenda was a site plan review for a cell tower installation. The applicant proposes to construct a new cell tower on part of the 145-acre parcel of land located at 6571 Shawnee Road. The cell tower would be 195 feet tall with a 4-foot tall lightning rod on the top for a total height of 199 feet. The applicant was advised of several items and issues to review prior to their next submittal. The applicant stated that they are considering lowering the proposed height of the tower and moving the location slightly to provide better screening from the south. The applicant was also advised of the approval process that they'll have to follow, which will include a coordinated review under seeker, a public hearing, a variance from the ZBA, and a special use permit and site plan approval from the planning board. No action was taken. That is our agenda. Are there any questions?
Tim, I have a question going way back to the beginning. The Aldi's, I was at the planning board meeting. There were 2 things that stuck out. One was a traffic survey. Well, that's a state highway and a county highway, so I'm not sure. I know they requested a traffic study. The other thing was that berm. They asked to, the one gentleman asked to leave that berm, and you mentioned it. Have they come back to you at all about leaving that berm? I know they don't want to lose parking or adjust parking, but, you know.
They have not resubmitted anything to the planning board as of yet.
It seems like if we could leave that berm, that might take a little bit of the pressure off that we're going to hear.
I know the planning board is waiting until they receive a revised submittal to start the seeker process. Okay. And they'll do a coordinated review with that, of which one of the involved agencies will be the DOT. So they'll have a chance to review the traffic study that was prepared for that and either agree with or offer modifications to their proposal.
Thank you.
I had a question on the Jacobs Ladder, the Motorrad building.
Yes.
It's good that we're going to be able to reuse that building. I think it's been unoccupied for probably more than 5 years or more.
Mhm.
But it says you're only going to be using they're going to be using 20,000 feet out of the 35,000. Where's the other, what's the extra 15,000 feet? Is it just going to be a dead part of the building? Do they own the whole building now, or?
I believe they own the whole building, right? I think they're keeping that at hand for if they're ready to expand in the future. If they don't, that could be available for another business to go into that as well.
But they're going to own that whole parcel, they're going to own the whole building, but they're only going to be occupying 20,000 square feet of the 35.
That's our understanding, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay. Thank you.
I got a couple questions. I thought, that Jacob's Ladder was in the IDA, in the newspaper, well, they got IDA approval and that, they were gonna put an addition on that, an expansion.
What came before the planning board was the Motorrad building on Walmore Drive.
Read in the paper before that, before
You got me.
IDA
Site plan we reviewed.
they are separate from the town? They are separate from the town. Generally, if it's something in the town, they will ask for our opinion.
Well, when do they have to have, some kind of site plan or sketch plan if they got some kind of approval like that from the IDA to build an addition? I'm pretty sure it was an addition.
I don't think that was an addition.
There were no exterior additions proposed for what the planning board reviewed.
Yeah, I didn't hear it that night too, and I was gonna mention it that night.
Hmm.
And the other thing was, about the Aldi's one, you mentioned about the other building that they were gonna have on the property.
Right.
I thought on the planning board, they wanted to eliminate that because they said that's a future project, and yet we mentioned it. They wanted to eliminate that.
That was, I mentioned, is what they initially proposed. One of the things I talked about is that was one of the things that the planning board had asked them to provide justification for parking, grading, and elimination of that future development parcel on there. And again, we have not, the planning board has not received any subsequent submittals on that yet.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We do have a couple of motions. Matt?
Okay, two motions tonight. First one's from the Firearms Permit Review Board. It's a motion to approve firearms discharge permits for the individuals as shown on the attached list that was attached in the packet from the Firearm Review Permit Board.
Does anybody wish to make the motion to approve those permits?
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Randy. Do we have a second? I'll go. Art, did I hear you?
Yep, second.
Okay, Art, second. Anything on the question? All in favor of approving those permits signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? They are approved.
And the second motion we have tonight's from the Budget Director. Be it resolved that the Town Board does hereby approve the following 2015 budget transfers for the General Fund and Highway Fund as follows, and the as follows is as presented in the motion packet.
I'll go ahead and make this motion.
Second.
Second by Larry. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. Is that the whole thing? No.
And that is it for motions tonight.
Okay. We did have some discussion at the last meeting about possibly rebuilding the bridges. We had a proposal from each of two different engineering firms for the bridge on Lemke as well as the bridge on Eric Road. At the board level, we've discussed this, and there's more work to be done before we want to take a serious look. So we'll move on to board member items. Councilman Helwig, do you have anything?
Try not to be too redundant here, but on the pipeline, there's an email address, and on January 13th, the public meeting that National Fuel Gas is going to hold, you have to register to go. I guess they want to make sure that they don't exceed the occupancy of the building, and it may not be a bad thing if we exceed it, so.
What is the occupancy of the building?
The email address is corpcom, C-O-R-P-C-O-M-M, @natfuel, N-A-T-F-U-E-L.com. And I think they need your name, address, of where you live, and that you're going to attend, and how many people are coming from your house, or...
What is inside, what is the, how
I
many
thought I
people will
saw
be there?
300. They did the same thing at Wendellville, so they're not putting us through another layer of
What happens if there's
bureaucracy.
more than 300 people that apply? Will they, take a second day?
They may have to.
Any more salesmen?
And then, I think Monica brought it up, I like your idea about the moratorium, so, you know, we listen up here, and I mean, we're a team, so, you know, consider us as, you know, this Wheatfield Action Group and us, I feel like we're all working for the same endpoint, so.
We are, and we should be. I just feel like we just need to make sure that.
But, just following up what Monica said on the moratorium on fracking, it's not just for the dehydration. I mean, if you look back, and I even mentioned it in one of our board meetings about a month or two ago, and I think it was Town of Amherst, their highway superintendent, went to their, and I think he blocked it. They wanted to spread fracking waste for a de-icer in Amherst as a real cheap solution to cut down on maybe road salt or something else. And I think they stopped it. I don't remember who stopped it, but they did stop it. So if maybe our town attorney can look at some type of wording for a moratorium, and we're not doing it just to bash nat fuel. We can stop fracking from going on our highways as a de-icer, going in as emissions into the air, anything else that these, throwing it in the quasar, because they wanted to put it into our, so if we can stop fracking from a couple, 2 or 3 different ways of getting into our waste stream to get it out, I think that would be a good thing. But I'm not proposing a moratorium right now, but I wanted to see if our town attorney could maybe just look at a little bit more language on how we could word it, but thank you, Monica.
Thank you for being an intervener. From what I understand, I think you're the only one.
I'm the only intervener?
From the board.
Okay.
I saw the term, what is an intervener?
It gives us the ability to go to sue them, to form a lawsuit. So it's an important step in order to, worst case scenario, last step to bring a lawsuit against them. Just gives us that ability, and the more people that are on a lawsuit, obviously, the stronger it would be. So at this point, you're just saying that you're an intervener, you're not doing much, but if it came to it, we would need legal representation, and then you would file a lawsuit in federal court.
I was an intervener back in 1992, too, and actually traveled to Washington, D.C., so it was kind of an experience. I didn't know FERC was an agency. I thought it was a person.
The notice that Larry was talking about is up on the website, so if anybody didn't get it down pat, it is available there, the date is there, the actual notice from National Fuel that came to me. Anything else, Larry?
No, that's all I have.
Okay.
I did, and I forget, I've been getting a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls from some of the residents on the pipeline, and I don't remember the person who called me, but the comment period did end on December 19th, but someone called and asked FERC the question if they're still taking comments. How much weight they put on because it's past the deadline. I've asked, and a lot of people out in the audience have asked to extend the period, and we're trying to get, whether they are or they're not, it's to be determined, but we hope that they're going to extend the comment period. But they are still taking comments, so if you missed the December 19th, and you have something real important to say it, and do another e-comment. It's still open. That's all I have.
Okay. Councilman Doucette, anything? Nothing. Councilman Gerbeck.
I have nothing. Mark, do you have a few words for the Fire Advisory Board?
Report
I'm sorry, could you just speak up a bit?
Nothing has changed since I reported 2 weeks ago, which was the night of our last meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you. I have no...
Okay.
No additional.
Okay, nothing else?
No.
Then, Randy, anything?
Nothing.
Surprise, surprise. I got a letter from DOT. They will not put a light on the corner of Cy and Niagara Falls Boulevard. They do not feel that it's justified based upon a study of accidents and traffic flow. If anybody wants to see the actual letter, I'll be happy to give it to you. I think we went through that about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. We sent a letter in asking for a light there. And that's about all I have, other than certainly Merry Christmas to everybody here and anybody in within listening distance. It's been an interesting year. We're looking forward to another difficult year next year. We do have a couple of big problems to go through. One of them is this dehydrator and the compressor, which affects Wheatfield as well. We got another notice today from DEC regarding the Niagara Sanitation landfill. They've actually classified it to a worse category. Now that they've removed all the worst of the material, they've classified it differently. And that's going to be another problem that's going to come before this board probably this next year. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where we have to go. At this point, we'll be meeting with DEC when they decide it's time to come and say hello. That's about all I have. So I guess next meeting is January 4th, same night as Fire Board. We don't have any preliminaries, so it'll be 7:30 here, unless we want to do the reorg meeting at 7. So, gentlemen, does somebody want to do reorg at 7, or do we want to wait until 7:30? Any opinions? That's Monday, the 4th of January.
So we do reorg first?
We could do reorg at 7, go through that, and then go into the meeting at 7:30, or we can just start reorg at 7, at 7:30.
You usually call the meetings, do you need a motion? You wanna? I'll
I
second
can.
your motion.
What's my motion?
That we'll do reorg at 7 and a regular town board meeting at 7:30.
Okay. So we'll have to put that in the minutes. We'll have to get the notice out. So we'll be starting our meeting then at 7 o'clock on January 4th. And that'll be the reorganization, the appointments, the annual appointments. It usually runs fairly quickly. And then we'll start the regular meeting promptly at 7:30.
You got a first and second, I don't know if you voted on it.
Okay, sorry. We did not vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we do now have a meeting at 7. Thank you. Back to public input. Anybody on any subject? Yes, Julie?
You just said about that landfill being classified as, worse than originally thought, the Niagara landfill?
It was a Class 3, meaning no likely harm. It's now a Class 2, meaning there is some likelihood of harmful chemicals, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to me, because they've taken the very worst of the chemicals and they're gone.
Well, with that said, what is the distance between that landfill and the proposed development? Will that change anything regarding that proposed development?
That's an interest.
Application process, because if I was gonna spend $250 on a house, I certainly wanna know that your landfill was actually.
Well, we know there is a field in between. We know from DEC testing that they claim that there was no migration of material off of the landfill site. Good old Wheatfield clay apparently kept things in there. What DEC seems to be concerned about is the nature of the materials. There are hydrocarbons in there. There are PCBs in there. Anything that was normal to throwing in a landfill 50 years ago.
Utmost faith in the DEC at this point, after all we've seen with Quasar and all of the correspondence that's gone through? Would we just say, oh, great, the DEC says it's okay?
Okay.
We have to hold the DEC, and we have to err on the side of caution, especially when
Well,
it's dealing with the health and safety of people in
Well, that's one of the things that they want us to do, I believe, is to put a fence around it and possibly cap it or move. I suspect there's gonna be more testing involved, but we don't know. They haven't asked us yet. Yeah, that fence, that... Yeah, the fence...
We cannot take chances with chemicals.
Yeah.
We can't. You don't want people to be sick.
Yeah, the fence on that property is somewhere around 7,000 feet, give or take. So it's not gonna be cheap.
The problem with that landfill too, and I used to work for Hooker and Occidental, and until they capped it, they had a clay bathtub, and they put all the chemicals in. And the problem with the bathtub, when it rains and snows and rains and snows, pretty soon the bathtub fills up and the bathtub overflows. So although the clay keeps everything contained, if it's a perfect situation, and you don't add Mother Nature dumping a 100-year flood every once in a while, every 5 years or 2 years, like we get them.
When you have a dry year, clay cracks. So,
Well, this particular type of clay doesn't migrate. It's pretty good clay, but the problem is with a clay, it's like a bathtub, and you have everything's inside of it, but as water goes in, stuff's going to flow over the top, and that's what happened at Love Canal, and that's probably what's happened here too.
So there's a chance of it migrated over that area.
But they say they tested it, but
Is the town willing to test the property surrounding all that to make sure, to help the residents, make sure they're protected that way? Because I'm in that area and I'm fighting against that.
Yeah, well, we don't know exactly where this process is going to go. It's going to be, whatever it is, it's probably going to be very expensive. I suspect, and I don't know, we do not have a specialist hired at this point, or we've only talked amongst ourselves. I suspect that we're going to be entertaining partners, people that have had materials that have been placed there 50 years ago, albeit 1964 through 1968. It was closed in 1968. Anybody that's still alive that has materials that we can show that are in there becomes a partner. And they will have to help to pay for whatever the cleanup will be. But that's a process that I'm sure is going to take some time.
There's people all up and down Forbes that have cancer, and, I mean, I spoke to someone the other night. There are so many physical things wrong with her, she doesn't even know how she can be alive. And there were barrels on top, out in the open, that got cleaned up before they actually started the remediation last summer. I mean, you've got people on that whole Forbes Terrace, Forbes Street that are sick. You can't say, you know, there's farmland in between, fine, but it's not like an invisible barrier. If the stuff went down 32 feet and they weren't expecting it, how do you know how far it's gone out?
Right.
And you put retention ponds in, you have the rain and everything else. You know, you can't say that it's safe. Even if they clean every last ounce of it out, which they can, it's not safe. I mean, I don't know how much more, this is becoming
Well, certainly they're not saying it's safe, and we're not saying it's safe. We know that there are materials in there that need help. What we don't know at this point is what do they expect as far as making it better. So we have to work with DEC no matter what. It would certainly be nice if they would do that, but Occidental Chemical paid for everything that was done in the last year and a half. It didn't cost Wheatfield anything at this point other than, I think, a fence. I think we put a fence in the way. Paul, you put up a small fence in the way and put a padlock on it, right? Yeah, so that's been our expense so far. But it is going to get expensive when it comes to the testing and other work, and we don't know how that's going to work at this point.
It's their chemical at that point, right? So they would be the ones paying for it.
Oxy is done. Okay, unless we have some proof that they have more material there, Oxy is done.
Unless we test and prove that there's more there, that's from them.
That's what I said, if we can prove it, right.
The government says that Love Canal is safe. You have people there now that are still dying and sick. And they're on the outer part of the canal where it's supposed to be safe, and it's not.
Yeah.
You can't say that stuff is safe. That's why I asked the last time if there's gonna be any testing done of where that development would possibly go. And there's farmland, anything that's gonna be built in that area, there should be testing done, and somebody needs to pay for it, whether it's the town or the developer or whoever, but it needs to be documented, because you put homes in there and you're sentencing people to death, lifetime irreversible illness. You get sick in those places, you can't get treated for it, it doesn't go away.
I don't think the developer should pay for it, because he's gonna cut corners on doing that. Could be a partial, player in, getting a true result on that. We'll be getting a lot of, what is that, false negatives, or false positives, whatever they call that. In that manner, as an outside entity doing it.
Could we tap into the super fund to help?
That's one of those questions that I simply don't know at this point. We have not had the DEC meeting. I got the notification today. It's a notification of reclassification of the site, I think is the term I would use. So more to come.
I just wanted to quickly say, in 40 years, hopefully I'll be sitting up there soon. In 40 years, I feel like we're going to be having the same conversation that we're having right now about Love Canal, about Liberty Drive, Quasar, National Fuel, and I hope to God I'm wrong. I really do. I really hope that I am. But we just don't know enough information.
Well, I'm not suggesting that we don't do anything, okay? I don't think I've ever suggested that.
No, I know.
But I don't think we have a whole lot of tools in our toolbox. I think the one thing that we can do is get information from National Fuel, and that's what I've been doing. Every time you ask a question or anybody asks a question, I send it to Pat Kelly. Pat Kelly goes out and gets answers from the horse's mouth. Once we have those answers, I put them back on the website. When they give us an answer and says that it's going to be 99% efficient on the very few chemicals that are going to be burned off or separated, that's something we can hold them to. When they say it's going to be a maximum decibel of 55 decibels coming from that site, that's something that we can hold them to. That's something that can come up during planning board meetings, get it in the planning board minutes, and if they don't do it, then they have to take the time, the trouble, whatever it takes to get back to 99% efficiency and back to 55 decibels. That we can definitely do.
What do we do during that time that they're over the 99%?
We have to try and, that's the problem, is trying to make sure that it is.
That's that we have to worry about at that time.
Right.
So there are alternatives.
They are stating publicly, they've stated publicly, they've put it in their paperwork, now they've answered on the internet, and they're answering to FERC, that they'll have a reboiler, and the materials that are burned will then go into, I forget the name of it, but it's some kind of a scrubber that's going to take out 99% of the materials.
Why can't we force them to do the alternative? Why wouldn't they want to do the alternative? The cost savings, the cost is pretty much equal at the end of the day. Yeah, you might need electricity for the alternative rather than feeding it through National Gas, but National Fuel, why not the alternative?
That is a question that I put, that was one of the questions that I put to them in my comment to, I forget, again, I don't remember the name, but it's up on the website. The comment is with FERC, asking specifically about this other type of a dehydrator rather than a reboiler.
Two final things. I mentioned about getting a lawyer to fight the fact that residents weren't notified. Are you willing to get a lawyer for us? And at least
I think we have a pretty good lawyer to take a look at that, and if he recommends outside counsel, then we would certainly take a look at that.
Okay, and then finally, the last comment that I had is about notifying residents about the National Fuel meeting. I know National Fuel, when they spoke with me, they said that they were going to advertise for this. But are we really willing to wait until they advertise, or is there something that we can do on our webpage, sending out emails, sending out flyers, sending out, doing something to let people know so that we can get 300 people and pack this damn room?
Okay.
That's what we need to do. We need to show them that we're going to put up a fight.
Yeah, website, I've done just about everything that I can think of. If somebody has a better idea, I'm certainly open to your ideas.
Get a Facebook page, get a Twitter account, people who are
I'm not the person to be doing that, believe me. I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Twitter.
To do that. Like, that is how you're gonna reach people. Our closed groups have thousands of people on them who are
Yeah, I
looking
think,
for information.
I suspect that you folks are gonna be far better at getting on Facebook and Twitter than I would ever be. Mailings cost about $4,000 per mailing, so it does get quite expensive.
The town of Pendleton felt that it was a necessity, and they did it.
You know, they're,
Why can't we do this, follow suit?
first of all, they're smaller, they have a lot less, they're about half our size, so they'd have about half of the mailings. Secondly, if there is a better way to do it, like Councilman Hellwig was talking earlier, that maybe we can do a robocall. Right now, most people that get robocalls simply just hang up on them or don't listen to them. But that's another way to get information out. Directing people to our website to get the information would be another possibility. But I think your idea of Facebook, I think your idea of Twitter is great, just the wrong person.
But we need to move into the 21st century, so
Yeah.
talking about a library to me is so antiquated when the world is using technology. Like, we need to, it shouldn't come from the residents, it should come from you, because then you're giving the information and it's not coming from us.
If somebody is willing to work with me to put something together and put my name on it, or the town board's name on it, I'm happy to do it, but I wouldn't know where to start.
I think $4,000 this one time to let people know about this thing that's gonna affect us for the next 40, 50, 60 years, I think people deserve to be told. I don't think people know about that. I've spoken with 2 people today who found my phone number from a Niagara Gazette or a North Tonawanda Sun article and called me and said, I have no idea what's going on, can you please tell me? That's scary.
Well,
People don't know.
and I understand, but it certainly has been out there. It's been in each of the papers. It's been, anybody that's looked at it online, it's there. If you've gone online to look at our meetings, it's there. And it's been there since probably April. I think April was when this first started being talked about.
With all due respect,
But
he had a
in this,
he wasn't told, and Monica wasn't told about Quasar and this and that. Like, we need to do something differently. It's clearly not working.
okay, well, people, I would hope that people would start looking at the website more, because that's where the information is. Gentlemen, if anybody wishes to make a motion on sending out a notice, we can do so. Otherwise, we'll keep going the way we're going. And if somebody is Facebook or Twitter and wants to do it on behalf of the town, can show us how to do that on behalf of the town, I'm all ears.
I'll be at your office next week.
Make an appointment. Okay. I'm not always there.
Draft a newsletter for to go on the mailing, but I'm gonna see if National Fuel Gas, and they petitioned the town once to tell people about the Burkholz dehydrator. I'm gonna petition them to do it again, maybe do a 1 mile, 2 mile radius around this plant and mail everybody in the town within a certain distance. I want to be a little bit reasonable with them. I don't know that I can get them to do the whole town, but if I can get them to do a certain distance, they did it once, and they notified people around Burkholz, so we're gonna let them do it again.
There's a dehydrator in Berkeley?
That's where it was.
That's where it was originally planned, is behind Burkholz. In the middle of the field behind Burkholz.
When they moved it, before they moved it, people, when they had the public hearings in Wendellville, there were several people from Burkholz. Not a lot, but there was probably 3 or 4 different families that were there.
Okay, anybody else on any subject? Sharon? That'll be decided on January 4th.
Then we can get them a sign, right?
It's in the budget.
I've been told it's on order, so maybe it'll get here by the week.
Matt, who?
I can take it with me when I come.
That's right. Okay, anybody else on any subject?